Welcome back to This Is How We Create. My name is Martine Severin, your host. Today, I want to talk with you about one thing that is really at the forefront of everyone's mind, and as well as at the promise of what we say and what we do here on the podcast. And that is on how to find your creative voice. There's this quote from Ira Glass where he says, "Nobody tells people who are beginners," and I'm paraphrasing here, that to get really, really good at something, to get really good, and I mean like the good that you want to be, the good that you dream about, it takes a whole lot of time. And as you go through your creative life, your creative career, all you're doing is improving your taste. For a long time, your taste is going to disappoint you. And you just have to push through so you could push past this phase of disappointment. And this phase, it lasts years, y'all. It lasts such a long time. Just as you're starting out, when you're in this phase and you're trying to get good, you're trying to figure out one, what it is that you really like and what it is that you want to negotiate between what you want your work to look like and what the world values as an artist. You're just trying to figure out essentially what your special sauce is. So today, what I want to talk to you about is about my story, if you will, my very arduous story, my very prickly story of trying to figure out how and what my creative voice is. And so this story starts when I was first going to portfolio reviews as a photographer. So, if you don't know anything about portfolio reviews, essentially it's when you come up with your portfolio of like your best work and you share it with others and they give you feedback. So, there I was in Chicago in a hot, windowless boardroom, and it was a conference room at some hotel. And it was the kind of space where there was a lot of carpeting, and at the time, my ambition felt a little bit lukewarm, but I knew that I had my best work printed and bound, and everything I was hoping for in terms of feedback from the reviewers, feedback that was going to say, like, you got it. So there I was seated at a table, and the reviewer was going through and looking at my work, and they were dead silent. As they were flipping through, they're like, well, okay, this is technically good, but where's your voice? And I didn't really understand what they meant because I was like, there's my voice. This is what I'm trying to say. But essentially, I had the idea or got the feeling that they didn't really know what I was trying to say. And they gave me the advice that everyone gives that feels really more like a slap in the face. And this person looked at me and they had shaggy brown hair and roomy blue eyes. And they were wearing these horn rimmed glasses. And they said, just be yourself. Photograph what makes you excited. Photograph what you love. Oh, oh my gosh. I thought I was photographing what I loved and what made me excited, but apparently I wasn't. I walked out of that ballroom feeling really small. And obviously, at that time, I knew that I had no taste and I didn't have a distinct point of view. So, what does be yourself mean? And if you are feeling like you're in this stage of not really understanding what your artistic style is, or if you're in the stage of going through and trying to emerge as a butterfly into the next iteration of your work, there's this tension between imitation and authenticity. And so, between who you are and who you're trying to become, that's what this whole episode is going to be about. And so let's start first with this question. How do you find your voice as an artist? And what makes that search so hard, especially for artists of color? So today I want to offer you maybe a more compassionate take, if you will. So I always think about Seth Godin, Roxanne Gay, Dion Ivory, and Cesar Santos. And so these are people I look for that are always my inspirations. So I use these people as kind of like having a mindset so I could reflect a little bit. But before you can speak or before we can speak in our own voice, sometimes we copy, we mimic, or we repeat. Children do this. That's how they learn language. And that's how we know that they end up babbling. We mirror our parents, our siblings, and whoever's around. We say things the way they say them. And that's how we learn rhythm, or at least the rhythm of language. Creativity is in so much, it's essentially the same way. As a photographer, I spent years studying other people's work. And these are the questions I'd ask. What makes this image good? Why does this lighting feel so imaginative? And how did they pose that subject like that? And if I am a little bit honest, a lot of my early work looked like everyone else's, if I'm honest. And that used to make me feel super embarrassed because I knew I wasn't ready yet, but I also knew I just needed to go through this stage, right? And like many American painters, there's César who says that you have to speak the language before you can write poetry. And that is so good because copying is part of creative lineage. It's not always like stealing, it's more like studying, it's like scaffolding. Your voice starts there, not necessarily as lightning bolt, but maybe as originality, as a way of accumulating influence, and as a way of figuring out how to write, how to paint, how to understand light. But be careful though, because originality can also become a cage. Originality can get really, really tricky. At a certain point, you might start wanting to break away. You want your work to feel like you. But what does that even mean? What does your work feeling like you mean? And I remember there was a season where every shoot I did felt like some kind of a performance, like a grand performance. Like I was trying to show someone that I got it, that I belonged. Oh boy. I'd change my edits to match a trend. I'd crop differently because someone on Instagram did something similar that looked so editorial. The irony is that the more I tried to sound like myself, the more I lost the thread, the more I didn't even know what I was doing or what I was saying. And then I started feeling a little bit stuck because there was this pressure to be original. You know, Seth Godin says that originality is not really the point, generosity is. But what does Seth mean that by that? What if your voice though isn't to invent it? What if it's not something to be invented, but something that you have to recognize by just showing up, by doing the work, by being generous with your creative effort? And Seth's quote really changed the way that I approached my originality. With that, I started chasing alignment and I started chasing something that's a little bit novel. So, for every artist of color, the pressure to be original doesn't always come from within. It might come from outside too. It might come from institutions. It might come from an audience. It might come from the industry, whatever your industry is. And we're expected to be groundbreaking and palatable. We're expected to be authentic and universal and representative and innovative. Roxane Gay has written about this, about how marginalized artists are often held to impossible standards. And there's a kind of performance where we're expected to do. We're expected to stand out, but not too far. We're expected to innovate, but in a way that people can understand. And simply, it's exhausting. This whole dance is exhausting. And all of this dance can make your search for your voice feel a little bit fraught. Because sometimes the voice that you want to use doesn't always feel marketable or on brand or expected. But the thing that I've learned is that your lived experiences are original. It's your perspective, and you are shaped by your own culture, by your body, by your memories, by your childhood. And all of that is really enough. And if there's one thing I've learned over and over and over again that all of the artists on the podcast have said is that when they go back to what makes them them, it's all of these little things, whether it's how your grandmother taught you how to crochet, or how your mother took you to the museum, the Art Institute in Chicago, and that influenced you. There's a moment in the process, and it doesn't always happen all at once. And this moment is when things start to feel clearer. Not perfect, but just clearer. And for me, it came when I stopped trying to create for applause, when I stopped trying to sound like another artist, or when I stopped trying to not be too Black, honestly. What I started doing was asking, what does it feel like to heal? What does healing feel like to me? What does joy feel like to me? And the first question came from Dion Ivory, who's a visual Black artist who centers her work on Black womanhood and healing. And she said something like, my originality became sacred because it was tied to my healing. Something like that, right? I might be paraphrasing her. Dion's work in this line gave me the permission to stop performing and to start listening inward, to start listening to more Haitian music that I grew up listening to start thinking about storytelling. And over there, that's when I started thinking about being more dramatic. Things started feeling more me. I started thinking about my voice as a Haitian American and how that resonated with me. And so for you, you may think about trusting the process. So I want to end by saying this: finding your voice isn't like crossing a finish line. It's not even a moment of arrival because it just keeps changing. It's like a garden. It grows and it changes, and sometimes it goes dormant. Sometimes it blooms unexpectedly. And sometimes you're just going to feel unsure because that's just part of the process. When your work feels safe, that's okay because sometimes in the safety and in the simplicity, that's where your original voice might come from. It might come from returning to something that you forgot. So as you go along your journey, remember that your journey is your journey and that it doesn't have to be like someone else's. And if you do want to borrow from other artists, borrow, but make it your own. So as we close out this episode, if your work still feels like a little bit of a patchwork of your influence, just remember you're not doing it wrong, as I just mentioned. You're learning a new language. And if you're tired of trying to stand out, don't worry. We see you. I see you. You don't need to be more original. You just need to be more honest. And your voice isn't out there waiting for you. It's really just shaped by your experiences, by your lineage, by your loved ones, by a conversation you had at the bar with your friends as you were going out. It just comes from everywhere. You just have to be silent enough to listen and to recognize it. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of This Is How We Create. If you did enjoy this episode, I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and send us a DM. All our contact information is in the show notes. And be sure to join us on Substack, where we publish our newsletter, Creative Matters, every Sunday, every single Sunday. Man, every Sunday. Thank you so much for coming on. Stay creative. Hi there. If you're loving the show, would you mind taking a quick second to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite go-to podcast app? While you're at it, subscribe to our Substack newsletter, Creative Matters. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. All right, that's all that I have for you today. Bye.